I'm Megan Bablak, and I am here to talk to you about big, small moments. You know, those moments that seem like a small deal, but really your heart is skipping a beat and your hands are all shaky and clammy from the nerves. Well, I am going to tell you about my experience. Now, this story actually begins with a tennis match. I know tennis matches are usually what people think of as that boring activity that their old grandparents watch on the dusty couch and TV after a tasty home-cooked dinner. But this was a very, very big deal to this person right here. And yes, in this story, that's me. So let me tell you what was happening. It was the last point of the last game, and my partner and I were up 6-5, my turn to serve. I took a deep breath as the sun was beating down on me, and I could feel the heat reflecting off the bright blue court and seeping into my sweaty hand holding my racket. I took a deep breath and looked in my partner Sienna's bright blue, hopeful eyes as I wiped the sweat off my forehead. Yes, a lot of sweat. I threw the ball straight up in the air, and boom! I aced our opponent and won the game. I heard the inspiring sound of my parents and teammates cheering and clapping for me from the bleachers. As I sprinted up to my opponent to embrace her in a game-winning hug, I realized that this is it. This is that moment. One of those crazy big small moments. You know, it probably seemed like it was just a boring, stupid high school tennis match that means nothing. But really, it was so much more. And I'll tell you exactly why. In 2008, after months and months of blood testing and hospital visits, my older sister Katie was diagnosed with leukemia, a disease of your blood that affects how your bone marrow produces blood cells. Her illness was very rare and life-threatening. In fact, out of the over 300 million people in this world, only about 750 get this disease each year. So, in order for her to be safe, she had to get a bone marrow transplant. The doctors tested my family and I, and luckily they discovered that I was a perfect match and was able to give some of my bone marrow to Katie. Katie battled back strong, but lived in the hospital for multiple months as she tried to return back to normal. One day, I was visiting Katie in the hospital after I had just won my soccer game. Her room smelled like medicine, and the young brown-haired nurse had just given her dinner of some dreary, brown-looking potatoes. I sat on Katie's hospital bed and held her hand while she drank a sip of apple juice with the other. Now, Katie is the strongest person I know. I mean, she didn't even cry when she found out she had cancer. But on this sunny, vibrant day, I could tell something was off with her in her dusty, hard hospital bed. So, I asked what was wrong, and she said something I will never forget. She said, "I don't miss the big things. Like, I know I'll get to live at home again, and I know I'll be back in school. I miss the little things. I miss being healthy enough to go out and play soccer with my friends. I miss running around screaming that I scored a great goal." I hugged my sister tightly and realized how truly lucky I was. The small things I took for granted were the very specific things that my sister missed most about normal life. Things like scoring a soccer goal, or maybe even winning that last point in that high school tennis match. And that, kids, is why a small moment in my tennis game was so incredibly big for me. It reminded me once again how fortunate and blessed that I am. And that is a feeling that I always like to keep in the back of my mind. So, be thankful for all you're blessed with, and keep experiencing those incredible but rare big small moments. Thank you so much for listening.